Hello, today I'm doing something different again. This time it's not create, it's not piston doors, it's computational redstone. Yeah, I've made a line drawer. It's not very good, but I haven't done this sort of thing in a while. And my best thing is that, which is nothing to do with anything like this. So yeah, got an 8x8 display. The rules are that you put in coordinate 1, coordinate 2. This one has to be bigger. So you've got, this is like 1 and that's 2. You can't do coordinate 2 here and coordinate 1 there. So that's the first rule. And the second rule is it has to be quite a shallow line, otherwise it just breaks, because it uses the Bresenham line algorithm, which to do steeper lines you need to do more stuff, which I haven't been bothered to do. This was pretty cool. So I've put in 1, 2, which is there as the first point, and then I think this is 3. Right. And 7, 6, which is up there somewhere. So it's got 3 buttons: clearing, plotting the points, plotting these points, and then drawing a line between them. I can plot the points, just like that. Yep, those are the 2 points, and then we press draw a line, and then it makes a line. I would say it's not that slow. It's not super quick, I guess, but I don't think it's that bad. And then that thing flashes a bit. So there's our line. It's a fine line. Yeah. I guess we should try another few points. So pressing clear, cleared it. What point should we go for? We could do those points there. Why not? So that is 2, 2. The first point, and then 7, 5, I think. So we can try those. So there's our 2 points. And then we press draw line. It draws the line. You can see a bunch of lamps flashing and stuff. Then we get a line. It's a decent line, yeah. And then we can clear it, which basically clears the screen, and there's some registers, I guess you'd call them, in here. So that's the build. I think it's pretty cool. For like the first thing. So I can explain it, I guess. So what happens is you flick the levers, and they switch these dusts on, and then when you press plot points, these unlock briefly, which basically means after you've pressed that you can do whatever you want with these and it won't change anything. Yeah, they get saved. And then what the Bresenham line algorithm, how it works is you find the error between, it's got an error which is like, if the error is greater than or equal to 0, then every time, this is run on a clock down there somewhere, and every time the clock goes you increment the x by 1, and then if the error, or the error parameter I think it's called, if that is greater or equal to 0, that means you increment y as well as x. And then if the error parameter is less than 0, then you just increment x and keep y the same. And then you repeat that, and then it works out. And the way you do the error is like the interesting bit. So when I press plot points, it finds the change in x and the change in y, or dy and dx. And the way it does that is all this grey stuff is just buses and stuff, very messy. You could probably think about it a bit more and get it a lot more organised. If you put these things next to each other, it'd be a lot simpler, but I didn't think ahead. So what it does is it basically gets the purple circuit over there to put its values into here. So this would be x of the second point and then x of the first point, and then this is a subtractor. So it subtracts the first point x from the second point x, which gives you dx. And this orange circuit saves it in a repeat lock thing, this one I guess. And then it does the same thing with the y coordinates, and then saves the change in y in these lamps. This orange circuit, so I didn't build two yellow circuits, make it a bit more compact, and it happens whilst you're waiting for these to plot, which is a separate thing which I couldn't make faster. And the way that works is we've got the screen, it's an XY plotter thing with memory. I kind of saw a design from MatPatWings and tried to copy it as best I could. That's also the same, I followed a tutorial for the adder subtractor thing. Yeah, on YouTube, because I thought there's been plenty of good ones made, so I'm not going to bother making a really bad, slow and big one. So I just took this one. I know it's not the best one there is, but it's fine, I guess. So what you've got is the y coordinate, the x coordinate, and that goes into these lines, which goes into the screen. And then powering this, like, sends the point through onto the screen, and then that one clears it. So these are counters, binary counters, which you can basically, you power that, it counts up in binary. Yep, fairly standard, also taken from that MatPatWings video. I added bits on to make it clearable though. And then, but the ones over there is this design, which is basically the same thing, except you can put some values in and shoot them through, and then count onwards from there. And then these comparative things are just so the lamps don't get spammed, which they're probably not needed, but I put them there anyway. Yeah. So these are counters. So what happens is when all that stuff is happening, these points also get sent along. One of them gets sent straight into the screen, which is the second point, and that just gets sent in, and then this detects when a point gets sent in to put it onto the screen. And then after that, while that's happening, the first point coordinates are getting sent into these counters, which then go on to going into the screen. And we do that because remember, each time x gets incremented and sometimes y gets incremented, so that's what those are. And then the second point, I mean, I could like take it, I could not display it on the screen and it would still like work. I don't know why that's comparative. If I press plot points and then break that, oh, it didn't work. I got rid of the values. I'll do whatever this is. So if I block the first point from going through, and it only does that, but the rest of the stuff still works. That plotting that is just visual. Thought it might be nice. So yeah. So that's kind of the setup. And then after that, that's what plotting the points button does. See, it still works. And then the draw line button, what it does is it starts this clock down here, which is on a latch, and that just clocks, which goes into the purple circuit. Different purple from that purple. I just forgot to use purple then, so 2 purple circuits. We also have another counter here. Anyway, so forget about all of that, and then look at this part, which is the mathsy part. So the next part of the Bresenham algorithm is that, well, I guess we have to find the starting error. So we use dx and dy and plug them into this green circuit, which doubles the change in y and then takes away the change in x. So that'll be 2 dy take away dx gives us like the initial error, which then gets saved into these repeater locks, and then goes to this circuit, which so the next part of the algorithm is, if the error is less than 0, that means you increment x by 1 and don't increment y by 1, and then to find the new error, which is what this does, is you get the old error and add 2 times the change in y, and that gives you the new error. And if the original error is greater than or equal to 0, then you increment x and you increment y, and then to get the new error from that, you add 2 times the change in y like before, but you also take away 2 times the change in x, which is what this is, and that gives you the new error. So this is an adder, this is a subtractor, this is the change in y, and in binary, if you bit shift upwards, I guess. So originally the number is 3, so the bottom 2 lamps, and then here we move up just 1. So the redstone lines just move up 2 blocks, and that multiplies it by 2, and the same thing happens here, which is how we get 2 change in y and 2 change in x. So that's what that does, and then the new error pops out here and then gets bussed back into this repeater lock when the clock pulses, and then it just loops around getting a new error every time, which is all well and good, but I don't draw anything to the graph yet. And then we're using 2's complement, which is a way of doing negative numbers in binary. Not that Wings will explain it much better than I can. Don't know why that is missing. So yeah, 2's complement, basically it means negative numbers, the top bit is on, positive numbers, the top bit is off. That's all it means in my head. I mean, it does other stuff as well. Anyway, if the top bit is on, that means that it is a negative number, which means this will be on, which means this will be off, which will block the 2x being subtracted. So that's how it chooses whether to do the old error plus 2 dy or old error plus 2 dy take away 2 dx. That's how it chooses between those, and then to get stuff happening on the screen every time the clock pulses, it pulses through these 2 counters. Every time it goes to the x counter, because every time the x goes up by 1, and every time it tries to go through the y counter, and then if this lamp is off, that means this torch is off, which means it can go through and increment y. But if it's a negative number, that lamp is on, and that dust is on from this torch, which stops the y incrementing. So that's how it gets stuff on the graph, and then also every time it goes through and powers that button. And then, so that works, but then it doesn't really know when to stop drawing the line. Because if you don't stop it, it will just carry on doing that with the same gradient. So what we have is this circuit and this counter. The counter should probably be magenta, but oh well. So this counter is also connected to the clock. It goes every time the clock goes. It doesn't start, it doesn't have any like loading into it from the beginning, like before, and it gets cleared at the end. And what this does is it goes into a load of XNOR gates, one for each bit, I guess, and then it compares itself with the change in X. And if the change in X and the count and the number on this counter are the same, then it knows it has reached this point. So then it just, this gate stops the clock, and then that's it. So yeah, I think that's all there is. And then clearing also, when you press clear, all the repeater lock stuff gets cleared, and the screen. So yeah, so that's how it works. When you press draw a line, this clock starts up, and these lamps count up, and then when we match the lamps from over there, the clock gets stopped. Like that. And then I also wired up to this lamp and note blocks, but they're really quiet for some reason. Yeah, so that's my thing. In the future, I guess I might make the screen bigger for a start, because it's tiny, and then make it able to do any gradient, which I haven't really looked at it, but I think that means swapping X and Y somewhere. That's how you do really positive gradients or negative gradients. Then after that, maybe I slap a bunch of stuff and make it draw shapes. I don't know. Or I could turn it into a circle algorithm, because Bresenham also, this algorithm is similar to his circle drawing one, I think, which is what Bresenham did and posted on Squids a few months ago, which is sort of what inspired me to do this. But yeah, so that's it. Goodbye.